I've always thought of myself as a decent father. Strict sometimes, sure, but never unfair. I worked 2 jobs for years to make sure my daughter had the life I never did. I helped her through college, paid off her student loans, and even co-signed a mortgage for her first home. So imagine my surprise when I found out she got married, not from her lips, not from a phone call, but from a damn Instagram post. It was a Saturday evening. I was sitting on the porch, drinking coffee, scrolling mindlessly through my feed when a picture caught my eye. It was her, my little girl, standing in a white dress. No fancy gown, no crowd. Just her and some guy in a suit, smiling in front of a courthouse. The caption said, "Officially Mrs. Parker Ring Sparkles." And that was it. No text, no call, no warning. Just a social media announcement to the world, like I was some stranger watching her life unfold from the sidelines. At first, I thought it was a prank, a joke, something out of context. So I called her. Once, twice, no answer. Then I texted, "What's this post? Tell me it's not real." 3 dots appeared for a few seconds and then disappeared. No reply. That silence hit harder than any argument ever could. I spent the night pacing the living room, staring at old photos, her graduation, her 16th birthday, the father-daughter dance. I kept asking myself what I did wrong. When did we stop talking? When did she start hiding things from me? By 2 a.m., I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. Angry in that quiet, dangerous way that comes when you feel betrayed by your own child. I opened the drawer where I kept her house papers, the deed I helped her sign when she said she wanted a place of her own. I looked at my name printed right next to hers, and all I could think was, she used my name to build her life, and then erased me from it. The next morning, I didn't even wait for her to call. I called a realtor. "Yeah," I said flatly, "I need to list a property for sale. Address is 328 Maple Drive." He asked, "Yours?" I hesitated for a moment. Then I said, "It's in my name. That's all that matters." People think anger makes you loud. It doesn't. It makes you quiet. It makes you deliberate. I wasn't trying to destroy her life. At least, that's what I told myself. I just wanted her to feel something, to understand that actions have weight, and that you can't shut people out just because it's convenient. But deep down, even as I gave the realtor all the details, I felt something twisting inside me. Something that wasn't just anger. It was heartbreak. Because no matter how betrayed I felt, I still loved her. And love makes everything so damn complicated. That night, as I turned off the lights, I stared again at her photo. Her smile, his arm around her shoulders, the look of freedom in her eyes. And for the first time, I realized something that scared me. She didn't look like my little girl anymore. She looked like someone who no longer needed her father. And maybe that's what hurt most of all. The sun came up heavy that morning. The kind of pale, washed-out light that doesn't warm anything. I hadn't slept. I'd sat in the recliner all night with the TV on mute. Coffee gone cold beside me, replaying the Instagram post in my head like a bad movie I couldn't shut off. I kept seeing her smile. That real one. The one that used to show up every Christmas morning when she'd tear open her gifts and yell, "You always know exactly what I want, Dad." But this time, that smile was for someone else. And I was in the picture. At 7 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from the realtor. "Listing paperwork is ready. Just need your signature." I stared at the message for a long time. Signing would make it real. Selling the house meant ending something I'd started with love. But I typed back, "Send it." Because when your heart's cracked open, sometimes pride walks in and pretends to be strength. By noon, the for sale sign was planted in the yard. I watched it from my truck. Engine idling, rain spattering the windshield. I remember the day we bought that place together, her eyes bright, her arms around my shoulders as she said, "It's perfect, Dad." Thank you. Back then, I thought I was helping her build her future. Now, I realized I'd only built her escape route. Around 3, my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. "Dad," she said breathless, scared. "Why is there a for sale sign outside my house?" "Correction," I said quietly. "My house. I just let you live there. The silence that followed could have filled the whole room. Then she said, her voice breaking, "You can't do that. We live here. My husband and I." That word, husband, landed like a brick to the chest. I'd never heard her say it out loud. I didn't even know his name until Instagram told me. "You didn't seem to mind doing everything else without my permission," I said. "Dad, please. I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't hurt me." I lied. "You just reminded me I'm not needed anymore." Her breath hitched. "That's not true." Then why'd I find out from a caption? Nothing. Just quiet breathing on the other end. "We wanted something small, simple," she said finally. "I was afraid you'd think I was rushing or that you wouldn't like him. So instead of letting me find out you were happy," I said, voice shaking, "you made sure I found out I was irrelevant." I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just hung up. Then I sat there staring at the phone, my reflection faint in the black screen, an aging man who'd spent his whole life making sure she'd never feel abandoned, only to be the one left standing in the empty driveway. An hour later, another call came, this time from a number I didn't know. It was him. "Mr. Carver," he said, tone tight, polite. "I think we got off on the wrong foot." "We didn't get off at all," I said flatly. "I never met you." He exhaled. "Look, I understand you're upset, but selling the house out from under us? That's extreme." "Extreme," I repeated. "You mean like secretly marry my daughter?" Silence. Then, calm as a surgeon, "You just proved why she didn't tell you." That line cut deeper than anything my daughter had said, because part of me feared he might be right. After call ended, I walked through my own house, the one still full of her memories. Her graduation photo is on the wall. Her childhood drawings are still pinned to the garage door. A shoebox of birthday cards she'd made when she was 8, all signed, "Love you forever, Daddy." I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the box until the tears finally came. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet and steady, the kind that burns because you waited too long to let them out. That night, I whispered into the empty room, "You can hate me all you want, kiddo, but you'll remember who was there when no one else was." And even though I tried to sound angry, the truth came out softer than I expected. "I just wish you'd told me." It was 2 days later when the letter showed up. Not a text, not an email, a real letter, folded, sealed, and placed gently inside my mailbox with my name written in her handwriting. I'd recognize it anywhere. For a long time, I just stood there, staring at it like it was a live grenade. My thumb traced over the little heart she always drew inside the A in Dad. Even after everything, she still did that. Inside, the house was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the clock above the fireplace. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same one where she used to do her homework, elbows deep in colored pencils and snacks. The same table where I taught her to balance a checkbook, fix a leaky faucet, and make her mom's favorite Sunday pancakes after she passed away. Now it felt like a courtroom, and the letter was my sentence. I tore the envelope slowly, careful not to rip the paper. Inside were 2 pages of lined notebook paper, slightly smudged, like maybe she cried while writing it. "Dad, I don't even know where to start. I didn't plan for you to find out this way. I swear I didn't. I wanted to tell you in person. But every time I looked at you, I saw how proud you were of me, how much you still saw me as your little girl. And I panicked, because I knew once I said the words, 'I'm getting married,' everything would change." I paused reading there. My throat tightened. She wasn't wrong. Things had changed the second she hit post. But I kept reading. "I met him when you were in the hospital last year. He was my nurse. He was the one who stayed late when you fell asleep after your tests. He's the one who told me how lucky you were to have a daughter who visits every day. That's when I realized I'd been living for you, not for myself." That line hit like a blade. Living for me. I'd told myself I was being protective, loving, careful, but maybe I'd just been holding her back. "He didn't steal me from you, Dad. You raised me to be brave, to love hard, to stand up for what I want. That's what I did. I just wish you could see it that way." I could picture her face as I read those words. The trembling lips, the same stubborn eyes she got from her mother. And for the first time, instead of anger, I felt something else. Grief. Not grief for losing her, but grief for all the moments I'd wasted trying to keep her in the past, instead of walking beside her into her future. You always told me love means sacrifice. So here's mine. I won't call or come by until you're ready. I don't want you to feel betrayed every time you see me happy. But I'll be here, waiting, whenever you're ready to meet the man I married. I love you, Dad, always. I stared at those last words for what felt like an hour. I love you, Dad, always. Even after I'd sold her house. Even after I'd said things I couldn't take back. Even after she'd chosen someone else. That night, I sat out on the porch with that letter in my lap. The porch light flickering above me like it couldn't decide whether to stay on or burn out. I thought about the first time she rode her bike, without training wheels. She'd fallen, scraped her knees, and I'd yelled, not because I was mad, but because I was scared. Scared she'd get hurt. Scared she didn't need my hand anymore. Maybe this was just another version of that. Another fall, another scrape, another moment where she didn't need me to catch her. She just needed me to believe she could stand. I don't remember crying. I just remember feeling empty, like the kind of silence that comes after a storm when the air still smells like rain. Around midnight, I walked back inside, folded the letter carefully, and placed it inside the same shoebox that held her old birthday cards. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a man who'd forgotten what love actually looked like, because love isn't control. It's letting go and trusting they'll still come back. Before going to bed, I pulled out my phone and typed a message I deleted 100 times before. You don't need to wait for me. Bring him over. Let's have dinner. I didn't send it. Not yet, but I left it written there in the drafts, just waiting for the day I'd be brave enough to press send. 3 weeks passed before I found the courage to hit send. I'd written and deleted that message 100 times. Sometimes I'd type it out word for word, reread it until my eyes blurred, and then erase it because the idea of seeing her and him at my dinner table made my stomach twist. But that night, after another quiet dinner for one and a flickering TV I didn't really watch, I took a deep breath and pressed send. You don't need to wait for me anymore. Bring him over. Sunday, 6 p.m. I didn't add a smiley face. Didn't say love you. Didn't even sign my name. Just sent it. I expected her to take days to reply, or maybe not at all, but she answered in under 2 minutes. I'll bring dessert. The next few days felt like slow motion. I cleaned the house, not the lazy wipe the counters and call it good kind of cleaning, but the deep, almost ritual kind. I scrubbed the kitchen tiles, vacuumed the hall, and even polished the old wooden frames of our family photos. There was one photo I couldn't stop staring at, her high school graduation picture. She was standing next to me, grinning ear to ear, holding her diploma like it was a key to the world. Back then, she looked at me like I was the world. And now, all I could think was how many worlds she must have built without me. Sunday came fast. I spent most of the day pacing around the living room, pretending to read the paper. At 5:58, I heard the sound of tires crunching the gravel outside. When I peeked through the window, I saw her, my daughter, stepping out of a blue sedan. And beside her was he. He wasn't what I expected. I don't know what I thought I'd see. Some arrogant kid. Maybe. But he was older than her by a few years. Clean-shaven, calm, polite posture. He walked around to open her door, help her out even though she didn't need it, and adjusted his coat like a man who still respected manners. For a moment, I hated that I couldn't hate him. When they reached the porch, she hesitated, then smiled, that small, nervous smile she used to give me whenever she brought home a bad report card. "Hi, Dad," she said softly. I just nodded. "You're early." She smiled again, tighter this time. "You always said 5 minutes early is on time." And that simple sentence, something she'd heard me say 1,000 times, hit me so hard I had to look away for a second. Then she turned to him. "Dad, this is Evan." He extended his hand. "It's an honor to finally meet you, sir." I hesitated. Then I shook it, firm. His grip wasn't the kind of forced, performative, strong handshake. It was steady, real. The kind that says I'm not perfect, but I mean what I say. Come in. I muttered. Dinner was awkward. Painfully so. Every sound was loud. The clinking of forks, the hum of the ceiling fan, and even the chair legs scraping against the hardwood floor. I made roast chicken, her favorite. She noticed. You remembered, she said. Of course, I replied. I raised you, didn't I? She laughed nervously, then glanced at Evan. He smiled, reassuring her. So, Evan, I finally said, cutting into the silence. What do you do? I'm a nurse, he replied, just as she'd written in her letter. Same hospital you were in last year. I froze for a moment. Right. You're the one who told her I was lucky. He nodded slowly. Yes, sir. You were lucky. But honestly, so was I. My knife slipped against the plate. I wasn't expecting that. He leaned forward slightly. I don't take it lightly, the fact that I married your daughter without asking you first. It wasn't out of disrespect. We were scared. We thought you'd hate me. I did. I said almost instantly. He didn't flinch. He just nodded. You had every right to. That shut me up. The kid didn't defend himself, didn't argue, didn't try to justify. He just accepted it. That quiet humility did something to me I didn't expect. After dinner, my daughter stood and started clearing plates. I'll take care of it, she said, and disappeared into the kitchen. That left me and Evan sitting across from each other, the space between us heavy with things unsaid. He looked around the room, at the pictures, the worn furniture, the framed drawing my daughter made when she was 6. Then he said quietly, You built a good home here. I almost said something defensive, but instead, I just sighed. It used to be. He hesitated, then added, You know, she talks about you all the time, even when she's angry, especially when she's angry. That made me laugh, a small, tired laugh I hadn't felt in months. The kitchen faucet turned off. Dishes clinked. I turned to him. Do you love her? He didn't even blink. Yes, sir. More than I can explain. I studied him, searching for cracks. A twitch, a lie, a flicker of guilt. But there wasn't any. Just truth. And that's when something inside me softened. Not a big dramatic shift. Just a small crack in the wall I'd built. She's all I've got. I whispered. He nodded. She says the same about you. When they left later that night, my daughter hugged me. It wasn't a long hug, not one of those tearful reunions you see in movies. But it was real, warm, human, hesitant but hopeful. As she turned to leave, she whispered, Thank you for dinner, Dad. I stood at the door long after the sound of their car faded down the street. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty this time. It felt waiting. Maybe for the next dinner. Maybe for forgiveness. Maybe for me to finally say what I'd been too stubborn to admit. That love, even when it hurts, is still love. It was nearly 2 months after that dinner when the phone rang. I was sitting in the same old recliner I'd had since before my daughter was born. The one with the coffee stain on the armrest and a spring that creaked like it was sighing under the weight of every year I'd lived in it. The TV was on, but the volume was low. Outside, the world was silent. Just the occasional bark of a neighbor's dog and the soft buzz of streetlights cutting through the darkness. When the phone rang, I almost didn't answer. It was late, 10:37 p.m., the hour when good news rarely calls. But something, maybe a father's instinct, made me pick up. Dad. Her voice, trembling, quiet, softer than I'd heard in years. Instantly, my stomach dropped. Sweetheart? What's wrong? There was a long pause, the kind where silence feels heavier than words. Then she said, barely above a whisper, Can you come to the hospital? The air left my lungs. I stood up so fast the recliner snapped backward. Hospital? What happened? Are you okay? I'm fine, she said quickly. It's Evan. My heart started pounding. I grabbed my jacket, keys, and didn't even put on socks. The drive, there was a blur. Red lights, rain streaking the windshield, my hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. When I got to the hospital, she was standing in the hallway, hair tied back messily, dark circles under her eyes. The same look her mother had the night her father passed. That look that says I'm trying to be strong, but I'm breaking inside. She ran to me. I hadn't felt her arms around me like that in years. Not since before the wedding. Not since before the silence. I held her so tight I could feel her heartbeat against mine. What happened? I asked, my voice shaking. Tears filled her eyes. He collapsed during his night shift. They said it was an aneurysm. He's in surgery now. Hours blurred into each other. We sat in the cold waiting room, side by side. Every time a doctor walked by, she flinched, hoping for good news, terrified of bad. I kept thinking about all the words I never said, all the time I'd wasted being right instead of being kind. At one point, she leaned her head on my shoulder, the way she used to when she was little, and I'd tell her bedtime stories about pirates and stars. She whispered, I didn't want to lose him the way I lost Mom. That sentence alone cracked something deep inside me. You won't, I said softly, though I didn't know if it was true. It was past 3 a.m. when the doctor finally came out. He looked exhausted, mask pulled down, eyes kind but tired. He made it, he said quietly. The surgery went well. He's in recovery, but it'll be a long road. My daughter broke. She covered her face and sobbed, the kind of cry that sounds like relief and heartbreak all tangled up together. I held her as tight as I could, feeling her tears soak into my shirt. Thank you, she kept whispering. Thank you, God. Thank you. We were allowed to see him briefly. He was pale, asleep, wires and monitors beeping steadily beside him. But he was alive. My daughter sat at his bedside, holding his hand like she could anchor him back to life just by touching him. I stood quietly in the doorway. That's when she looked up at me, eyes red, cheeks wet, but full of something I hadn't seen in a long time. Peace. Dad, she said softly, I never told you why we got married so fast. I didn't move, didn't speak, just waited. He proposed after your hospital stay, she began. I said yes, but we weren't going to do it right away. Then a few weeks later, he found out he had this condition, something with his arteries. He didn't tell anyone at first. He said he didn't want me to worry. Her voice broke. When he finally told me, I panicked. I thought if something happened to him, I'd never forgive myself for waiting. So we got married quietly. We wanted to tell you, but then your checkup came back with complications, and I didn't want to add more stress. By the time things calmed down, it just got harder to find the right moment. I felt the floor tilt under me. All this time, I thought she betrayed me, but she'd just been protecting me, the same way I'd spent years trying to protect her. I sat down beside her and took her hand. She looked at me like she wasn't sure she had the right to hold on, like she was waiting for me to pull away. But I didn't. I squeezed it tight. I was wrong, I whispered. I thought I was losing you. I didn't realize I was the one pushing you away. She cried then, silent, shaking sobs. And I cried too, the kind of tears that taste like years of pride, regret, and love finally finding its way back home. A few hours later, dawn began to break through the hospital windows. The sky turned from gray to pink, soft light spilling over the sterile walls. Evan stirred in his bed. His eyes fluttered open just enough to see her, then me. He smiled weakly. Morning, sir, he croaked. Told her you'd come. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. You just focus on getting better, I said. We'll talk later. He nodded faintly. Yes, sir. My daughter leaned over, kissed his forehead, then turned to me with that same smile she used to give as a little girl when she wanted to make sure I wasn't mad anymore. That morning, as I walked out of the hospital to grab some coffee, I stopped at the glass doors and looked back. Through the window, I could see them. Her sitting by his bed, her hand resting on his chest, the sunlight painting both of them in gold. For the first time in years, I didn't feel left behind. I felt proud, because maybe love doesn't mean keeping your children close. Maybe it means teaching them how to love someone enough to stay, even through the storms. When I got home that evening, I opened the box where I kept her old letter. I unfolded it, read it again, and this time, instead of pain, I felt something else. Gratitude. Then I took out my phone, opened my drafts, and finally hit send on the message that had been waiting there for months. You don't need to wait for me anymore. I'm already here.